I never meant to visit Brisbane. In fact, the only reason I even went there in the first place was because I genuinely had no other option. Life threw me a major curveball, and Brisbane was the best solution. Now, this video is in no way throwing shade at Brisbane. In my mind, Brisbane would be a perfect place to visit, someday far off in the future. But, as the saying goes, man plans and God laughs. My name is Josh, and I am a digital nomad who lives in a different country every single month. Join me for a totally unexpected and unplanned trip to the capital of the state of Queensland, Brisbane, Australia. Ultimately, this whole thing is all New Zealand's fault. Well, it's actually mostly my fault. Okay, it is entirely my fault, but New Zealand is part of it. My dad had done something pretty amazing. He flew all the way across the world to visit me in Sydney. And ultimately, our game plan was simple. Together, we'd spend some time in Sydney before flying over to Auckland, New Zealand, where he would finish up his portion of the trip, and I would stay behind and continue exploring on my own after he left. Pretty straightforward plan. What could go wrong? Well, failing to handle some basic travel planning on my end is what could go wrong, apparently. For some unknown reason, I forgot to apply for my New Zealand ETA. It's an electronic travel authorization, and as a US citizen, you can't travel to New Zealand without it. We intended to fly to Auckland on Sunday, and I applied for my ETA on Friday. And while many people do get instant clearance, it can take up to 72 hours or longer. I applied much too late, and as I did not get immediate clearance, it now seemed as if my ETA wouldn't come in on time before our flight. But because my dad was more prepared, and since he had his ETA already, he was going to go on without me, and I would join him whenever I could. I immediately started going through all my options. I asked my Airbnb host if I could pay to stay for an extra couple days in Sydney, but no, the place was already booked. In fact, pretty much everywhere in Sydney was all booked up for the weekend, and whatever places weren't were insanely expensive. And that is where Brisbane finally enters the picture. After a few moments of panicking, I took a deep breath and made the conscious decision. I was going to make lemonade out of these lemons. How can I turn this loss into a win? I was going to book a cheap flight from Sydney to Brisbane. The hotels in Brisbane were much cheaper than in Sydney, they had more availability, and to top it off, it seemed like I would also be able to book an affordable flight from Brisbane directly over to Auckland at a moment's notice whenever my New Zealand ETA finally came in. So I did it. I booked a same-day flight to Brisbane and said goodbye to my dad, genuinely having no idea when I would be able to meet up with him in New Zealand, if at all. I took the flight and landed into Brisbane. I had no idea how long I would be staying in this city. 1 day, 1 week, 1 month? Regardless, I was about to learn what Brisbane was really about. And the best way to do that is by eating. I checked into my hotel in the heart of the CBD, dropped my bags, and immediately opened Google Maps. What restaurants are nearby? The beauty of doing no pre-planning meant that I only had to follow one thing to make my decision, and that was my heart. What sounds good? Pancakes. Pancakes sounded good. Right down the block from my hotel was a restaurant called Pancake Manor. It's a 24-hour pancake shop set up inside of an old church, which is immediately iconic. As you might imagine, they have tons of options for pancakes. I mean, just dessert for days. However, I was already feeling irresponsible for failing to apply for my ETA, so I decided that I should order something more nutritious. And also a peanut butter milkshake. I ordered the classic, which is in fact something entirely different from a standard pancake or crepe. The classic is a potato pancake with cheese, pineapple, and banana, along with an egg and some hollandaise sauce. This was such an unexpected but really delightful combination of breakfast ingredients. I love a sweet, savory combo like this, and it ultimately was super filling. I mean, this absolutely did the job. Given that I was going in completely blind, this was amazing. It felt unique and unlike anything I'd ever really tried before. I mean, not just in Australia, but anywhere in the world for that matter. Huge win. Things had started off pretty well, and now I was truly getting curious. What else can I learn about this place? It was a beautiful spring day, tons of sun, perfect weather, so I did what any sane person who had just eaten a slab of pancakes and drank a milkshake would do. I started walking. I had some calories to burn, and it didn't take long before I saw them. And yeah, they made me very confused. What I'm talking about are these big inflatable worm things with faces. They were just sticking out of everything. Bridges, famous buildings, popping up out of the ground. They were just on the loose and had taken over the city of Brisbane. I mean, is this just like the normal aesthetic here? And if so, do I just move here immediately? Unfortunately, these incredible art installations were temporary and part of something called the Brisbane Festival. I just so happened to visit Brisbane during a very special yearly celebration of art and culture, in which many public spaces are turned into displays of art. Now, personally, I love anything that is cute and that has a face, so this was perfect for me. Naturally, there were many other elements to this festival that I didn't have the time to enjoy, but just spotting these creatures all over town that I learned are designed by artists Craig Redman and Carl Meyer and are apparently called Mateys was amazing. I love art. As I continued to walk around aimlessly, I also managed to stumble upon the Brisbane City Botanic Gardens, which were also totally alive with weekend festivities. There was live music, food stalls, fountains. I mean, I was texting my dad about how cool it was. I don't think that he was happy that I was enjoying my time away from him like this, which is totally fair. Sorry, Dad. Brisbane CBD is super walkable, and the downtown area is pretty compact, which made it a lot of fun to just follow wherever the crowds were going. It led me all over the city, and I really felt like I had gotten the lay of the land pretty quickly. Brisbane, I was starting to think, is a pretty cool place. The day wound down, but there was still no word from New Zealand. My dad only had 4 more days before he had to fly home. I was getting nervous. I woke up the next morning, now with more than 72 hours since my application. And while it could have taken several more days, I did, in fact, have the email. There it was. My New Zealand ETA had finally come in. I was cleared to fly to Auckland. I rushed around to book the earliest flight that I could and managed to find a Qantas flight from Brisbane to Auckland, leaving later in the same evening. I bought myself a seat and I told my dad the good news. Though, in fairness, he was doing just fine in New Zealand without me. He sent me these photos that he took from a tour of Waiheke Island. I mean, he was thriving. Ultimately, getting the ETA was a huge relief. I was so worried. I had totally screwed up the trip my dad had come so far to enjoy. But ultimately, it would only result in us being apart for less than 48 hours of his trip, which is not ideal, but it is definitely manageable. But also, I won't lie, in some ways, it was bittersweet. I really enjoyed the brief time that I had spent in Brisbane. It's such a beautiful city. In 2 days, I got to try great food and experience amazing art, both in public and in some of the great museums. I did have a bit of time to kill before my flight, and I had heard about a great bar in a heritage building in Brisbane called the Gresham. I decided that I'd use my remaining time to stop in and grab one last meal and a drink. But what I got was so much more. It was lunchtime, and the bar had only just opened for the day, and so I was one of the very first customers. As such, the bartender had plenty of time and genuinely walked me through basically the entire history of Australian whiskey. He spoke about all the different types and the different flavors you'll get from different regions throughout the country. I mean, we're talking earthy flavors, fruity flavors, oaky flavors. I kid you not, I got an entire whiskey tour. I'm telling you, I learned more from this man than I have at actual distillery tours. This was incredible. I sipped 2 different types of curated Aussie whiskey, which is easily the best whiskey I've ever had, and I ate I ate a ham and cheese sandwich. I do recognize the irony of sipping classy whiskey against a meal as juvenile as a ham and cheese sandwich, but I contain multitudes, what can I say? But as I sat there sipping my drinks and eating my sandwich, finally free of the stressful New Zealand situation, I sort of started thinking over the last couple days in Brisbane. I never meant to go to Brisbane. At no point was visiting this city a part of my plans at all, until literally the moment that I was booking the flight and heading to the airport. And now, in a very short period of time, Brisbane may have become my favorite city in Australia. Now, I'm not saying that you should wait until the last minute to apply for an ETA or a visa, or that you should abandon your father in a foreign country. Don't do that. However, I am saying that sometimes, if you are open to it, life will send you on a side quest to a place that you never knew that you needed to go. And in those moments, I've found that it's best to listen.